Good evening. So my name is Jason Weiner. I met both Masa and Steven 2015 when I entered the Smart Mobility Challenge that Toyota put on. I ended up winning the whole kit and caboodle, which was pretty cool. That part of the grand prize was the opportunity to collaborate with Toyota in the future. We initially had looked at taking the idea around the iRoad that I had pitched at the event and moving it further, but the opportunity really kind of recrafted itself early last year into what is now the Prius Challenge. So we wanted to look at something that Toyota's been holding for the better part of a decade, and that's the Prius Cup. And the Prius Cup takes place predominantly in Japan and is a multi-lap race with 3 drivers that over the course of 9 laps on a racetrack, they optimize your fuel economy, best fuel economy over the 9 laps, and the time window wins. Now in and of that self, not terribly exciting, at least from an outsider's perspective. But when you get in the car, it's actually really cool because trying to get a Prius on a racetrack to achieve optimum fuel economy is not an easy thing. And when you're trying to do it within a time window, it's even harder. So we started figuring out, well, one, how do we put a value spin on this? And the way you do that is put data on it. I'm a data nerd. I've been driving race cars for the better part of a decade. I come out of mostly a formula car background, so anytime you get out of a race car, you pretty much spend the next, you drive for 20, 30 minutes, and then you get to go spend the next 2 hours looking at trace data that comes off your car. So I like data. Not to the level a couple of groups of folks I see out here can do, but I know how to understand data and I know how to apply it to my driving. So what's interesting about the Valley is you can now, there are so many really strong groups of data scientists out there that if we made the data available, what could you do differently with it? What could you do in a way that race car people wouldn't do? What can you do? Because race car people look at optimized lines. They look at the perfect lap. They look at qualifying. They don't look at optimizing for fuel economy. They don't look at optimizing for a particular fuel economy in a particular time window. So the first thing we started out looking at was, all right, well, we're going to grab data. How are we going to grab the data? How are we going to make it available in a meaningful way that can then be used on race day? And what we ended up building was a thing called the Driver Strategy app. And the Driver Strategy app is a web-based interface that allows you first as a group of data scientists or experts in machine learning to get access to the data, which more than half of this room, you're data scientists. You that's what you want to dig. So we've made it available through either syncing through Dropbox or you download the big zip file. We have 88 laps of data that we make available for you. We have tons of information. It's a pretty precise data stream with high resolution. We include GPS, we include elevation, we include acceleration, we include throttle, state of charge, whether or not it's in EV mode, what state the transmission's in, drive, neutral, regen. We include things like RPM, instant fuel economy, vehicle speed, etc. So once you have the data, now you need to be able to do something with that data. So you can go off and you can hypothesize for the next better part of a month and come to race day with some ideas, or you can build your strategies and then come to race day and try to execute against them. Very similar to how a Formula One team would ultimately go off and do that. So the second half of the product that we built is called the Driver Coaching app. Crazy name. So what the Driver Coaching app does is it takes the strategies that you're going to build, and we've built a schema for the strategies, and allows you to play back your data from the car in real time against the strategies that you've composed ahead of time. As well as if you want to have a big team, you can come and we'll make a fire hose available for you of the data coming off your car, and as well as other car data, and then you can analyze that in real time in the paddocks and figure out it's a lower resolution stream, it's a 1 hertz stream, but it's enough for you to make qualified decisions given an average lap is between 4 and 4.5 minutes at speed. So that's where we started. We have things where you have to take into consideration, like there are in-laps, there are out-laps, there are driver changes. You have to have 3 drivers participate over the course of the 9 laps. Doesn't mean each driver has to drive 3 laps, but it means that the drivers have to switch 2 times. That means you have to come into the pit lane 2 times. You have to come out of the pit lane. A total, you have to come into the pit lane a total of 3 times. You have to come out of the pit lane a total of 3 times. So there are, we've built a tool for people who aren't savvy in data science and in code. So people who are designers and project managers and executive types or car enthusiasts. We've built a WYSIWYG editor, very similar to iMovie or Final Cut Pro, that allows you to stitch together your strategy using the data we've captured. We make multiple profiles of the data available. So for in-laps, out-laps, and flying laps, we provide 3 high fuel economy, average fuel economy, low fuel economy, with differing time profiles that you can then drag into the editor, the timeline, and build your strategy, which then gets saved to a server. And then on race day, you play that back, you grab it, you log into the iPad app. When you get in the car, you use a 4-digit PIN, it pulls down your strategies, and then you play back against those in real time. On top of that, we wanted to work on things like how do you meet other people, because there are 2 very distinct types of people that can come to this event. There are the machine learning data science people, there are the not machine learning data science people. So we wanted to make sure that there's a way for them to intermingle. And so if you find somebody who has massive chops with machine learning, but the rest of you don't, you can build, that particular person on your team can build their desired outputs, and then we can bring that into the editor, and you can visualize that. As well as if you want to really get into the weeds, you can use OSRF Simulator, which is really cool. It runs on EC2. You can play it from either a joystick or from a wheel or from a keyboard if you want to really go kind of nuts. And the output of that is available as data in the same format as the data we've made available for analysis. So you can import that as another strategy, and you can cut that strategy up and save clips. We'll use them in other strategies and so on. So it's pretty nifty. We've built social hooks that are really simple from the perspective of team communications, maybe finding if you don't have enough team members, we can help you find additional people who might not necessarily be on a team yet. You can follow other teams, very stereotypical social hooks that you're pretty much used to. And so that's the site that I have up behind me. And so this is the Prius Challenge site. That first and foremost, what you see is a leaderboard of the teams and the best fuel economy for a strategy that they published to date. From there, you can go and check out that team. You can follow them, and you cannot see the actual strategy, but you can see a summary of how they've done and people that are involved with them, so that if there's a way that you want to connect, if there's an opportunity there in the future from a business perspective, from a career perspective, whatever, it's there. You can build your own teams, so you can come through and set up your team. It's very social. You then can come through and manage your team members. You can invite people if they're not yet members of the event. If they haven't yet registered for the event, we get them into the fold. You go and then you can set different statuses where they're either drivers or they're non-drivers and pit crew. This is kind of housekeeping. I want to just make sure you're aware that if you have people that you're thinking that you want to reach out to, even from a relationship perspective, it might be a good tool for you from your own career perspective. Not terribly new or earth-shattering until we get into the ID. You get to see their profile, see who they are, see if they've been building their own strategies in the meantime between the time that we've kicked off the brainstorming sessions, which are all on your own. After they'll begin next week, and you have between that time and the time at the track to come up with strategies and share them with your team and make them ready for race day. Once you're there, you can come through and then you actually interact with the editor. So this is the IDE we've built. It uses the race data that the race track data that we've captured from Sonoma Raceway in mid-December. We had 2 professional drivers do the capture. One was is an electric car specialist who does testing for electric go-karts in Formula E. The other is a gentleman who is a multi-endurance champion and an open-wheel ex-Formula Atlantic racer. Hot shoe when it comes to an IC car, internal combustion engine car. So we spent the better part of 2 days capturing data. Of that, we made just under 100 laps available of that to you. We also did a bunch of physics-based tests, which are coast downs and accelerations and cruise control laps that you're not getting. But we use that because behind the scenes of the editor, we have a physics engine that we've built with one of the best simulation tool companies in the world. They're a multi-world champion Formula 1 team. They built the simulator behind the scenes there. It's awesome. So when you make changes to the editor, it sends it to our engine. The engine does the extrapolation and then spits out the results in the telemetry feeds. So how do you use this? It's real straightforward. You've got a clip editor. You drag clips into the IDE. From there, you can go through and manipulate. You can manipulate channels of data. So you can come through and say, I want to change this throttle position. I want to change EV mode, etc. It goes through, it hits the server. Right now, this is a test version that's local, but it ends up going through and then provides you the data, and then you can save this up to the cloud. You can turn any of these clips or laps into additional clips that you can use over and over and over again, and then you stitch together your strategy. So you've got a tool that's really kind of special from the perspective of if you don't know what you're doing with the data. Here's a graphical interface to allow you to manipulate that data and come up with a strategy that you can use. It gives you an idea of like, if you do this, what will happen with the car? So this is based, the track itself is a challenge. So the elevations they massively change. So turns 1, 2, and 3 are literally going up like an 8-story building over the course of a very short amount of time. So you have to be wise about how you use your throttle as well as your EV to optimize for the rest of the lap, because that's the taxation for most of the lap. So you need to plan, how are you going to approach that? Are you going to use a blend of EV? Are you going to use that in pure ICE? Are you going to scoot up there as fast as you can? Are you going to go real slow and kind of cumbersomely? And then what do you do on the back half? Are you going to do regen? Because you've got hybrid. So how are you going to plan for your regen? How are you going to plan for applying the EV? Because when you use EV, it doesn't count against your MPG. We're not taxing you with MPG equivalent. We're only taxing you when you use the internal combustion engine. But what you'll also see in the data is that there are times when the car is going to decide to regen on you. It's going to turn the engine on when you're coasting down the backstretch because it needs power because the SOC is too low. So you'll be able to start to figure stuff like that out in the data. And so we give you a pretty strong corpus of material to start from, and then you can formulate your ideas. Once you're done with that, so in order to get that information, get that data, you'll just come into the strategy section. There are 3 buttons off to the right-hand side. The first is you can authenticate with Dropbox. If you authenticate with Dropbox, it's really straightforward. It's not rocket surgery. It'll drop a folder in your apps folder once you authenticate it. One's called data. The other's called strategies. Makes sense. Data contains all the lap data that you could possibly want to get your hands on. We'll also have a schema in there where it'll explain what the channels are, what the resolution is, and how it's all structured. It's all time-stamped. It all has location associated with it, as well as precise elevation. So we've corrected the elevation beyond what we captured from the device using Google Maps and USGS. So it's pretty precise, and it's worked really well with the simulations that both Nate has done as well as that we've built within our physics engine. So once you're done, you're going to come back and go to into your strategies folder, and you can add a folder, as many folders for as many strategies as you want. It's all JSON. You basically have a manifest file that is basically a list of the clips that you're going to use over the course of your particular race strategy. Each of those have a trim attribute, which means where are you going to start or stop the clip if you're going to use a part of it. Those are they're percentages, so they need to be accurate to 5 positions. And from there, you can import this along with any clips that you generate. So you want to think of it kind of from a non-linear editing perspective, where the clips are kind of these hunks of data that you're going to reference back to. So it's pretty simple to grasp. This is what a clip looks like. It's got a little bit of meta associated with it, that, so there's name, there's the rolled up fuel economy. We use that. If you don't want to provide those things, you don't really have to. We just use them so when you see the clip in the palette within the IDE, so you understand what you've got there. So it gives you this simple summary statistics. The rest of it's positional data. It's timestamps, it's GPS, it's throttle position, state of charge, RPM, etc. So that's pretty much the nitty-gritty of it. Once you're ready to go, you either create if you want to re-import it into the system so that you can either use it on race day or you want to mess with it within the IDE. You simply either create a new folder within Dropbox called whatever strategy name you want to call it. It'll sync, we webhook it, and as soon as it's done and processed, which is pretty fast, you'll get a notification, an email saying, hey, you can go check it out. You can come into the editor, and it'll be in your editor for you. So you can come through and then, sorry, it's a feature. So you can come through and then drag through, and you can see how your strategy is performing in real time. You can do things like trim down clips and make new clips, so that you can cut things up. So if there are parts of laps that you like versus other parts, you can use what you like, and that's kind of the idea. It's designed for people who aren't going to want to get into the weeds with the data. So, but if you do have a group that wants to get in the weeds and another group that wants to implement it, then you can kind of bifurcate and conquer. When you're all done, this will be shared with the team, and then it's made available for race day, and then it plays back at real time on an iPad. So there's a driver, there are 3 drivers, and then there's a coach. The coach sits in the right-hand seat, kind of like WRC, and the coach will be able to see in real time the data streaming off the car, and then gives the driver reports on how they're doing. You can also make notes in the iPad app. So things that we learned when we were testing are you need to have a certain MPG, so you can pin certain sections and certain statistics over the course of a lap. So if you need to know that I need to be at 70 at turn 7, and I need to be at 2 minutes and 40 seconds at turn 7 in order to have a successful lap or a lap better than I've had to date, you can do things like that. You can kind of star attributes as you go through. You can make notes. So once you're all done, you've finished the course, the 9 laps, so done driver changes twice. You finished in 41 minutes, and you have the best MPG of any team out there, and you win. And that's kind of it. There are a number of awards as well that we have for data science and how you execute beforehand and then day of. You also, the real kind of fun part about it though is that you get access to the data, and you get to figure out things that we haven't thought of. We've spent a lot of time, but I can tell you for a fact, Masa-san said the goal is to get over 100 miles a gallon. And that sounds ludicrous for Sonoma Raceway. But I can tell you for a fact that over 9 laps we got to 111.4 miles per gallon. So you can do it. It's awesome when you do that. It was awesome that car did it, but unfortunately I wasn't in that car, and so it sucked. So we actually were in the 90s. There were laps that this guy who's an electric car specialist, you look at the data, and the data will be there for you guys. When you look at the data, you're just like, how did you do that? And then you look at his traces, and you're like, that's fantastic. And so you can get a lot of information out of that and then apply it however you like elsewhere. But the race is counterintuitive. It's not about going fast. It's about being smooth. It's about thinking about how you're setting up your matches for the end of the course. And then it's about how do you plan for regen? How do you plan for the things that you never really think of on a day-to-day basis driving. And you're in Sonoma, and you get to look around on a racetrack that professional drivers drive on, and you're going to be doing something that's really fun basically in your wheelhouse. So that's kind of the nitty-gritty of what we're doing. We'll be readily available for questions as they come up, as you go through your ideas, as you deal with the data. You can send us mail. There's an intercom widget in the lower right-hand corner of all the things in red. Send us a message. We'll get back to you pretty fast. It's
Jason, when does the tool become available?
Sorry, I thought I said that, but Monday. Monday it'll be available, so you'll be able to log in and start making strategies, as well as forming your teams and maybe inviting people you haven't thought of inviting yet. Yeah, so that's kind of me. So the other thing that you can do from within the tool is launch the OSRF simulator, and it's simply by going over to this side. You go through and provision. It actually does all the provisioning on behalf of OSRF remotely, and then it'll let you know when it takes a minute or so for the sim to come up through EC2. Once it's available, that simulator widget will shift gears into say, hey, it's up now, so you can go off and start testing in the sim. So I'm going to turn it over now to Nate.